Coming up, a surprise appearance at Newcastle United's training ground after deadline day. So, Eddie Howe did not meet the media this morning ahead of Newcastle United's clash with Luton because the manager has reported with an illness. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to be in the dugout tomorrow. I think he might even take training today, but he was not deemed fit enough to take the press conference this morning, which was a bit of a shame, really, because obviously it was the first one after the transfer window. So, Eddie Howe unable to fulfil those media duties, which he always does such a great job at press conferences. But instead, a different voice for the journalists down at Benton this morning. Jason Tindall basically taken on 40 minutes worth of media duties. Not one to shirk the limelight. Jason Tindall was happy to meet the press and discuss all manner of subjects. Probably, the headline would be the fact that Alexander Isak's injury doesn't seem as bad as first feared. I mean, I think there were some reports saying he could be missing for 4 weeks. When Newcastle going to have to head to the transfer market yesterday and bring in a late replacement. That proved not to be the case. Isak is going to train today. They're going to see how he is. So that's going to be a big boost for Newcastle going into the game against Luton. He was also asked about Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, Joe Willock. His name was thrown in there by Jason Tindall. Possibility that he could... possibility Wilson and Barnes, are pretty close, and Joe Willock's not too far behind them. So a big positive on that score, with the squad now starting to look a little bit more like, we all hoped and dreamed of at the start of the season. There a lot more players available to the coaching staff. And really for Eddie Howe, I think he'll see this game against Luton as an opportunity to build on that 3-1 win at Villa. Great win down there the other night. Now that deadline day is gone and the window's gone, let's reflect on what an amazing victory that was at Villa Park. Bringing their unbeaten record to the end, really upsetting Aston Villa, really asking the questions, and also could Newcastle now, salvage the race back in the top 4. Let's be optimistic. At least try and get into one of the European spots. But, could they at least chip that gap down between the top 4 and where they are now? They're going to have to do something special to achieve it. But Luton Town at home, 3 points. Some other results don't go the way of others. Newcastle could be, break that down to single points figures. So let's hope Newcastle can do that. Other subjects in the press conference, well, it was inevitably all about Jason Tindall himself, and the man that has got more headlines than most assistant managers would get. And he was talking about does he like the nickname Mad Dog? The technical area, phenomenon that goes on about, was the rule designed for them too? He said, yeah, it probably was. So lots of stuff about Tindall personally, lots of stuff about his kind of this cult status that he seems to have built up, which I don't think we've seen that from an assistant manager for a long time. Maybe you'd have to go back to Terry McDermott. He was very popular with the fans, had his own chant and stuff like that. But that was probably because he was a former player, a real favourite of St James's Park. But for Jason Tindall, it is something else that he is so popular, and it's great, really. So that was Jason Tindall this morning, and Newcastle fans always delighted to hear from him. And really, if you go into the last game where Jason Tindall previewed, a game for Newcastle was against Brentford way back in 2021 when it was a 3-3 draw. It was Eddie Howe's first game. He couldn't make it because of COVID. Now, he will be in the dugout tomorrow, so that's not quite the same storyline now. But good to hear from Jason Tindall this morning. My thoughts on the game personally, I think it's one Newcastle win. I think they were very, very poor in the away game at Luton Town. I think that'll be in the system that they'll want to put that right because they were so bad that day. And I think, I can see, a good solid home win. Now, Luton are no mugs. They've just demolished Brighton 4-0. but that's at home. I think that it's a different story at home, and I know they've picked up various results on the road as well. But I think Newcastle, if they're as good as they were the other night at Villa, then I can see it being a home win. So fingers crossed for that. And Newcastle can have a good weekend, climb up the table, transfer window behind us, and move on into the second half of the season in good spirits.